What's up guys, Josh here of Tech, and we all know that Realme is known for bringing competitive bang for your buck budget smartphones in the market. Earlier this year, they released the Realme 5i, and you probably already heard about their newly released Realme C3. So in this video, we're putting these two Realme devices head to head to see which one is for you. Let's start with design. Holding these phones honestly feels fairly similar as they both have the same size, construction, and even buttons and ports placement. That's having their power buttons on the right, a volume rocker and dual SIM card tray with a dedicated micro SD card slot on the left. Both are expandable up to 256 gigabytes. The top parts are bare, while at the bottom you can find their speaker grills, micro USB ports, microphones, and headphone jacks. Yes! Up front, both have slim bezels with a slightly thicker chin and their respective dewdrop notches, which Realme calls mini drop, to house their front cameras and earpiece speakers. At the back, you'll find both their fingerprint scanners, some Realme branding, LED flashes, a triple rear camera setup for the C3, and a quadruple rear shooter for the 5i. So we'll call it a tie for design since besides the camera difference, they look completely the same with matte backs and create some ray-like effect upon closer look. What's good is that this design makes the phones less prone to fingerprints. Do note that for color options, the Realme 5i is available in aqua blue and forest green, while the C3 comes in either frozen blue or blazing red. Moving on to the display, both phones come with the same screens. That's a 6.5-inch IPS panel with a 1600 by 720 resolution. Both also come with Corning Gorilla Glass 3 for protection. Both produce good colors, however, although they share the same screen type, there's a big gap in maximum screen brightness levels and viewing angles. Distinguishably, the Realme C3 has better outdoor visibility and viewing angles, so we're giving props to that. As for downward firing speakers, the audio quality isn't that good, but it isn't that terrible either. We get the same quality from both with pretty lacking lows and mids. Sound comes out distorted when their volumes are set to maximum. It's also worth mentioning that the placement of their speakers are poor as well, since it's expected that most users would probably end up covering them when holding the device against the palm. Well, hopefully, Realme will fix this soon, but nonetheless, both do get headphone jacks so you can take advantage of those. Now, things are different when it comes to software. Out of the box, the Realme 5i runs on Android 9 Pie skinned with ColorOS 6, while the C3 is one of the first Realme models to get Realme UI 1.0 based on Android 10. Realme UI still has some interface similarities to ColorOS with a redesigned edgy look, so you won't really get a hard time getting used to it. However, we did notice that there are now more customizable features on the Realme UI. Both provide the option for an app drawer and a system-wide dark mode, which we like. Then again, they also come with pre-installed apps such as Google Services, Shopee, Facebook, and HeyTap Cloud. But as for this category, we're definitely giving it to the refreshed UI of the Realme C3. Under the hood, the Realme C3 comes with the more recent Helio G70 chipset, which is marginally better than the Snapdragon 665 AIE found on the Realme 5i. Both phones are paired with 3GB of RAM, but the Realme 5i comes with 64GB of storage, doubling the C3's 32GB. While the 32GB and 64GB might seem low for today's standards, I did mention that both devices support memory expansion via microSD card up to 256GB. For some numbers, we'll flash the benchmark scores now. Now, doing basic tasks such as social media browsing, navigating around, and messaging was pretty good. They both perform smoothly, with the Realme C3 being a little faster. Do take caution in having multiple apps running in the background as it'll make these devices feel sluggish. We were also able to play games with heavy graphics, however, do expect frame lags to occur from time to time from both. So although both the 5i and C3 function closely, we're still giving the performance to the Realme C3 as it provided a more optimized experience. For biometrics and security, you can unlock both phones via fingerprint scanning and face unlock. Their fingerprint scanners are easy to reach and work rapidly. Their face unlocks though have slower response time than that of their fingerprint scanners, but hey, they work fine except for low light conditions. Keeping both phones running is a massive 5000 mAh battery with a 10-watt charging support. In our standard video loop test, the Realme 5i yielded an impressive total of 25 hours while the C3 got a whopping 26 hours and 19 minutes. Since they have different efficient processors and low-resolution screens, you can expect long battery life on these devices. Nonetheless, in our experience, you do get more from the Realme C3. Okay, it's time to talk about cameras. At the back, the Realme 5i gets a quad camera setup composed of a 12-megapixel main, an 8-megapixel ultrawide, a 2-megapixel macro, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. On the other hand, the Realme C3 packs a triple camera setup composed of a 12-megapixel main, a 2-megapixel portrait, and a 2-megapixel macro shooter. On their notches reside an 8-megapixel front camera for the 5i, while the C3 gets a 5-megapixel one. Taking a look at these first sample of shots, we have Enzo snoozing at work. I'm pretty sure you won't miss the HDR performance performance of the Realme C3 in the window here. It provided more details compared to the 5i's overexposed part. We also noticed that the 5i falls on a more shadowy look with more saturation, while the C3 gave a natural looking output, especially when it comes to his skin tone. When we put both in 2x zoom, we get the same quality but now lacks HDR. Under 5x zoom, the 5i can zoom further, but of course we get this washed and noisy look. The Realme C3 also looks grainy, but we do see more details. In these shots now, they look almost the same with more contrast on the 5i. Nonetheless, we do get more details on the C3 here. For these next set of shots, both look sharp and bright. However, we still notice that the C3 provided more accurate colors if you'll focus on the camera in the photo. As for these portrait shots of me taken via rear cameras, we get a wider range from the 5i and it honestly did great when it comes to subject-background separation. The C3 on the other hand looks warmer and also did a good job in separation, but I guess it got confused with the chair. For portrait selfies, here's Justin. The Realme 5i provided a sharp, bright photo with really good subject-background separation. Meanwhile, the C3 looks softer and falls on cooler tones more. Its subject background is fair though, since it missed some strands of her hair. For these selfies of AJ, we get the same approach of having a sharper shot for the 5i and a softer one for the C3, although the 5i may quite have overdone it with the sharpness in this case. As for low light, yikes. These two aren't really good photos as they're noisy and washed, but the 5i did a better job in brightness. Here are night shots without any night modes turned on. The 5i looks muddy while the C3 looks grainy. They can take some details, but I really wouldn't recommend them in this category. As for nightscape, only the 5i has that available feature, so for the Realme C3, you'll solely rely on its AI capabilities. But to give you an idea, here's how the Realme 5i's nightscape performs. Not bad though. But do note that it takes 7 seconds to take this shot, so better make sure that your hand is steady. So for cameras, they both have their own advantages and disadvantages, but I think it's clear that the 5i wins here. Alright, it's time to talk about price. The Realme 5i is priced at 6,990 pesos, while the C3 is available for 5,990. Both get 3GB of RAM, but the cheaper C3 only gets 32GB of internal storage, while the 5i gets 64GB. Either way, both are expandable via microSD card. So if you want to add an additional 1,000 pesos for better cameras, then I recommend that you go for the Realme 5i. It's a dependable entry-level device. But overall for this comparison, we're picking the Realme C3 as the winner. Besides its updated software, it packs better performance, display, and battery life. It's a really good phone, especially if you're on a tight budget and you simply want a reliable device for basic tasks that can last you a whole day and even more. So what do you guys think? Will you go for the Realme 5i or the latest Realme C3? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Josh, and I'll catch you in the next one.